How's everyone doing today? So, welcome to today's webinar. Boy, we got a lot of exciting things going on today. My book has finally arrived, so I just thought I'd kind of just show it off a little. There's a lot of great stuff in this book about the apartment business. A lot of stories about Dave and I buying, I'd say, close to 2,000 apartment units over our partnership, and I just kind of kept a diary and how-to and checklists and some really cool stories. So I'm going to get those out of the way, but I just wanted to share that with everybody. Hang on. All right, well, as always, please feel free to type in your questions, and first of all, well, Dave's not here today, so I'm going to have to play Dr. Dave and Alan Schnur at the same time. I can tell you what, we received so many questions over the last 2 or 3 weeks that I thought it'd be a really good opportunity, since Dave wasn't here, was to kind of make this a Q&A session. And I printed out a bunch of questions that I've come across online, and today we're just going to have a Q&A and really cool details about what does it take to get involved in apartment buildings, and basically how do you run them, and maybe we'll talk about some financial ratios. But before that, like always, I'd like to just kind of talk about the last 7 days of our life here. Again, here we are in our building, our office building. It's 55,000 square feet. Dave and I bought this building a few months ago. It's working out great. And I just want to remind everybody that on October 23rd, we're having we open up the doors, and we have some wine and some beer and some cheese and some pizza and some sandwiches. So come on down if you're here in Houston. Make sure to register at workwithdave.com/RSVP. And let's get right to it. So, wow, what a week. I don't know if anyone's keeping up with the bond market. And if you're not, it's okay, but let me kind of explain to you why it's important in the apartment business. Let's see. I'm sure everybody would agree there's a lot more commotion over the last few weeks here in the world, from maybe the Ebola virus to some of the fighting that we see in the Middle East, and then just some uncertainty in the stock market. As we speak, the stock market's down 400 points today. So, and I've actually watched it fall probably 1,000 points over the last week or two. So what does that do when people aren't sure where to put their money? They can buy apartment buildings, and that's what I hope everybody does do. But what they also do is a lot of investors and hedge funds and banks, they park their money in U.S. Treasuries. So we kind of call that flight to quality, flight to safety. And when they buy these 10-year Treasury notes, the yield that those notes pays off goes down, which is very valuable for investors like us. And this is how we get to partake in some of the benefits of what's happening in the economy and what's happening in the United States, because sometimes in life, the more commotion, the more unsafety, the more people are concerned. Well, they buy these 10-year treasuries and they drive down the yield, which makes it cheaper for us to borrow money. So last week, Dave and I were talking about we have 2 deals that are getting ready to close, which I'll talk about shortly. And we were looking at interest rates around 4.5, 4.25, 4.5. And I can tell you right now, with the 10-year yield coming off like the way it did, we're looking at probably now a 4% loan. So that's like a half a point on millions of dollars. That literally relates to probably, in our case, $50,000 to $75,000 more a year in cash flow. Can you imagine? In cash flow, an extra $50,000 to $75,000 because interest rates continue to fall. So these are kind of some of the things we'll be talking about in today's session. Also, we have our weekend event coming up on the 25th and the 26th, and I look forward to seeing everybody on the 23rd here at the building. So something really exciting that happened over the last 2 weeks, Dave and I got involved in a transaction on an 80-house community. Well, actually, the community is a few hundred houses, but there's around, I'd say, like 5 or 10 blocks within this community that we are officially in contract now to purchase these 80 houses. Really beautiful stuff. Most of them are like 4-bedroom, 2-bath. We're here to talk about commercial real estate and apartment buildings, but when you have an 80-house package, that really is commercial real estate, and the loan is going to look like that as well. So we're in contract for this deal, and I've been doing my fundraising, and I know a lot of you have written, sent in some notes and want to know about fundraising, and I hope to touch on that as well, but we'll get there shortly. Hang with me. So we're doing some fundraising. We're in contract for the 80 houses. That's pretty exciting. You know, it's at the end of the year where we start looking for these deals. So we try to buy something every 90 days, and we kind of went through a 90-day dry period. So I want everyone to, you know, sometimes in life you're going to go through those dry spells where there's no good buys, or what you think you're buying falls through. You got to hang in there. You really got to hang in there, because quite frankly, it's just making you tougher. It's making you tougher to, I hate to say it, sometimes endure more pain. You know what I mean? So, and it gets you closer to the next deal. So Dave and I actually are in the middle of 2 transactions, and that's coming out of like a 90-day dry period. So the first transaction is the 80 house deal, and I just about raised all the money I need in that one. And then the second transaction is, for now, I'm going to call it a 160 unit deal. It's a little less, but we're officially not supposed to be talking about that one until we close it. We agreed, we signed papers, and NDA. So, and that one is really cool because there's something out there called cross-collateralization. And what that means is you can take apartment complex A and you can use it to buy apartment B, and it's cross-collateralized. And it's pretty exciting because not only do we get to refinance property A, not only do we get to pull out some equity from property A, we get to buy property B, no money out of our pockets. So our partnership gets to more or less go from 150 units to 300 units in a roundabout way. And what I really like about this deal right now, since interest rates are going lower and lower and lower as we speak, I get to refinance property A at the same time. So we're taking that rate from like 5.75% probably down to like a 4% loan. So there's going to be incredible savings on property A, and we're going to get this extra cash flow from property B, and we're looking on closing that over the next few weeks. So 80 units, 160 units, and let's see here. We talked about the bond market. We talked about finding some investors. I'd say we get right to it. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to go through some of those question and answers that I haven't been able to answer because we've been running out of time in some of our previous webinars. So the first question I have right here is, Dear Alan, what does it cost to hire a property management company? I've heard all kinds of rumors, and I'm not sure how to pay them out. So here's how we do it. And if you recall, I am an owner in a property management company. We manage over 6,000 units, and I can tell you more or less industry guidelines, which is most property management companies charge 3 to 5% of the gross collection. Okay, very important, gross collection, because you want to incentivize your property management company to collect as much as they can. So the more they collect, the more they get paid, right? Yes. Okay. So let's just say the collections were $100,000 on one particular property on the first month. So, you know, let's just say it's 5%. So 5% of $100,000 is $5,000. That's what the property management company would get paid. Now here's where people get a little crushed. They don't realize that the property management company is one fee, and then the overhead to run an apartment building is another fee. So you can have a property manager that works on site 40 hours a week. That's separate. That's the overhead that comes directly out of running the apartment building. So you'll have, let's just say you pay your property manager, let's say you pay her $4,000 a month, $48,000 a year approximately. And then you have your maintenance person. Let's say you spend another $4,000 a month. So you have $8,000 of payroll, right? Now, don't get that confused with the 5% we're taking from the gross of $100,000. So you're going to have a $5,000 expense to the property management company, and in addition to that, you're going to have $8,000 on payroll for the property manager and the property maintenance person. So again, industry standard 3 to 5% doesn't include any overhead. Let me see what else is here. Okay, same question too, and this is from Laura. She asked about how do we keep track of all our maintenance workers. We have approximately 250 people in the company in the property management side. And sometimes we have maintenance people. We call them roving maintenance people, and it really saves us money. Some of the maintenance people that we hire are more skilled than others. So let's just say we have a master plumber on the payroll, and there's a major problem at, say, property A. So he goes over to property A, and we have this really cool software. Some of the properties actually you use your fingerprints. You scan in on the computer when you get to the leasing office, when you get on site, and this way we know who's working on the property and we know what the pay rate is. So let's just say Jose. Jose goes to the property, he scans in with his fingerprints, and he works on the property, say, for 2 days. And by the way, they have to scan in and out when they leave for lunch, and they have to scan when they arrive, and they have to scan when they leave. And if they don't scan out, well, we're not paying. It took a while to get everybody on board with this program, but it just really streamlines everything for us because that goes directly through our payroll and really cuts back on all the overhead problems that we have in accounting. Okay, so Jose is there for 2 days. And next thing I know, property B has a problem. So he runs over to that property and he does the same thing. He scans in, scans out. Saves me a fortune because I don't have to go outsource this to an expensive plumbing company. And then let's just say property C and property D and property E, they all have problems. And he's going to hit these properties, 3 of them in one day, in and out, in and out, in and out. And that's how we stay on top of it. And it works out great for us. Instead of, like I said, hiring and outsourcing a plumbing company, we can send our highly skilled technicians on specific jobs. So Laura, thank you for writing in. What do I typically pay a property manager? Well, that really depends on the property, and it really depends on your location. But right now in the Houston area, we're pretty much seeing maybe around $15 to $18 an hour for a property manager. And what we like to do is we like to pay leasing bonuses. I don't know about all of you, but I come from a commission-based environment, so I really try extra hard to incentivize all my people. Always do more than what you're asked for. That's the kind of attitude I take in life, and I would hope you take that attitude as well. So, yeah, $15 to $18 an hour for the property manager, and depending on the maintenance worker, if they're AC certified, right, we got to pay a little more for someone who knows how to fix air conditioners and has gone through a certification program for a few reasons. So they have to have a license to buy specific chemicals at the Freon that needs to be poured into condensers. And then obviously we want to make sure that they know how to fix air conditioning condensers, and we want to make sure they know how to fix them correctly. Here in Houston, there's actually lots of certification programs that we like to send our people to. So decide if that's what you want to do. Some of you have smaller properties, maybe like 50 units or less. It's hard to keep someone like that on the payroll. So maybe you can, what I used to do when I first got started, I'd make a special deal with a particular air conditioning company in the area. I'm here in Houston. I mean, it's common to be around 100 degrees for 3 or 4 months straight. And of course, we want to keep everybody nice and cool during those periods. Okay, hang on one sec. Okay, looks like Amir is writing in here about due diligence, before purchase and after purchase. Wow, this is a really loaded question. The first due diligence question, and let me explain to you what due diligence is. Due diligence is a period that when you're inside of your contract, it's a specified period that is kind of a way out of the contract, if that's the way it's written, which is I get to look at this property, say, for 21 days. And if I don't like what I see, I can take all my money, I can take all my doys, and leave the sandbox. So some people get a 21-day due diligence period. And what are you doing during your due diligence period? Well, good question. Amir, here's what you're doing. You might want to go in there first with some general contractors. You might want to bring someone to come in to look at the air conditioning units. You might want to bring in a roofing company. You might want to bring in an electrical company. You might want to bring in a plumbing company. You might want to just bring in your GC guy that knows how to do all this. And I've done this before. I've taken a GC to the property that I want to buy. I'm in due diligence, 21 days. And basically, the general contractor will go through the whole entire property. He'll do all the work for me, and he'll hand me his estimate, and he'll stand by his estimate as well, as much as he can. And this way I can be in that due diligence time period and hopefully make some educated decisions here if I think I'm getting what I'm paying for, or if I'm not, then I need to go renegotiate with the seller. Seller doesn't want to renegotiate, well, that's what the due diligence period is for. You can just leave, hopefully, with all the money you came with. So that's due diligence, Amir. Let's see here. Looks like Shelly has a question about pet rent. Pet rent is a flat fee paid upon the move-in. Okay, so some people call them pet deposits, and pet deposits are different than pet fees in the apartment business. So a pet deposit is, okay, you know what, you're giving me $200, $300, $400 for your dog, and when you move out, if everything is the way it was when you first moved in, well, you can have all your money back. Pet deposit, I'm sorry, a pet fee is, you know what, there's no way, there's no way that little doggy of yours, as cute as it is not going to do damage to my apartment. And I'll tell you what, damage or no damage, you're just paying to bring your dog. So we call that pet rent sometimes. And I've seen some buildings collect $300, $400, $500 up front, and that's the end of it. Or I've actually seen people tag on pet rent every month to the invoice that the tenant receives. So it's really up to you and how you want to run your building. Of course, when it comes to other dogs, you know, you might want to have a weight limit on the dog that you let on your property. And of course, there's dangerous breeds. We don't allow them. I don't want them. And quite frankly, sometimes those kind of dogs, you know, unfortunately, bring with them some kind of tendency that you don't really want to have, and some of the problems. So no big dogs, and of course they can be dangerous, and we've all heard about some of those stories. And you want to make sure you're insured for those kind of situations as well. Alrighty? Alright. This next question, it's about EIN numbers. And I found when you're about to purchase an apartment building, you got to get the checking accounts ready, right? And when you're going into contract on an apartment building, we don't always have our new LLC set up correctly because, quite frankly, we don't know if we're going to get the property. So what we do is we like to submit a contract for purchase in a generalized holding company that we use for an LLC. And as we progress through the due diligence process and we go through the contract process and we're getting ready to close, well, bang, we got to start pulling the trigger and we got to start setting up a bank account. And in order to set up a bank account, your banker is going to want an EIN number. So you need to go down to your local taxing authority or get on some kind of federal government website, or even just pay an attorney to do it for you. And once they set up your LLC and your articles, you will be sent an EIN number, and it's really important. I think it's like a 6 or 7 or 8 digit number, and you're going to need that to open up a checking account. So once you know you're going to go forth with the property, get that EIN number as fast as possible, set up the account as fast as possible. Because what's going to happen is, before you know it, you're going to have to start setting up utilities, and you're going to have to start writing checks, and you're going to have to start paying for some of those contractors to go onto property as soon as possible. And you don't want to commingle money. You want to be set. You want to be set up. You want to be ready to go. You want to have one checking account. So very good question about EIN numbers. I've been in both situations, and I can tell you that it's no fun not having your corporate LLC set up correctly, getting ready to pay people for the first time, because it is the first time for that particular building. So you want to come off really strong, and you're ready to go, and you got everything under control. You don't want to be walking around pulling money out of your pocket. Believe me, been there. Okay, let me see. Next question here. Okay. Capital. Let's see. Someone was referring to, Amy was referring to one of my videos, back to, it's a due diligence question. A lot of people, I guess, are concerned about due diligence, Amy, because you're really going to decide what you're going to fix on the property and what you're not going to fix on the property. And that's the difference of maybe buying the property or not buying the property. I can tell you as a buyer and a seller, It's a little nerve-wracking if you feel like something big is going to break and you're just not sure how much it's going to cost. So in the past, Dave and I have sent out due diligence checklists, and they're pretty extensive. They're like Excel spreadsheets, and they literally have hundreds of items on them. So it will make you aware of some of the things you're looking for, and it will also help you create a budget. And a budget's very important, by the way, because let's just say you want to fix, I don't know, 20 toilet bowls. I know it's not, the most pleasant thing to talk about, but let's just say they cost $50 a piece. So what is that, $1,000? So you're going to want to go through your due diligence. You want to go through your checklist, and you want to set up your budget correctly so you know exactly what's going to happen, so you can hit the ground running as soon as you buy that building. So we have these checklists, and again, I want to remind everybody, come on out to the event on the 23rd of October. Maybe I'll have a few here. I'll leave them out on the table. Or for sure, when we have our seminar weekend on the 25th and the 26th, we're going to have these checklists ready for you. And there's actually a lot of that stuff in this book right now. So I want to remind everybody, you can sign up for this seminar. You go to workwithdaveandallen.com and /RSVP. And from there, you can register for the event. You need to do it as soon as possible. There is limited seating. And look, we're super busy. This is just a huge opportunity. I'm taking time out of our month. If you were ever interested in doing something like this before, it's time, especially with interest rates the way they are. And there's actually a lot of opportunity coming our way as these markets become a little unsettled again. So you can maybe jump in and find one of those, I call it the low-hanging fruit in a tree, and pick that tree and set yourself up, right? It only takes one apartment deal to change your life. I've been there. I know all about it. I'll see everybody soon. I'm going to get back to some more of these questions. Let's see here. 3 days to Mandarin. Okay, Fannie Mae loans. Fannie Mae loans. Okay, so I have a lot to say about Fannie Mae loans because, again, we are in the middle of a purchase, and we spent the week shopping 3 banks and Fannie Mae. And basically, the way this works is when you lock up in contract, you'll have the opportunity to go send that contract to a few different lenders. Maybe you're working with a mortgage broker, and the mortgage broker will do it for you. But I can tell you that one deal we sent out to 4 large lenders, and what they do in return is, first of all, they'll let you know if they're interested or not. Second of all, when they do let you know they're interested, of course they're going to ask some more questions, and you're either going to answer them, or your mortgage broker is going to answer them. And then once that happens, if they want to proceed with the deal, I guess we'll call this step number 3, they're going to send over a term sheet. And the term sheet is more or less going to outline the proposal of them lending you money. So we did that this week with Fannie Mae, we did it with Deutsche Bank, we did it with Goldman Sachs, and we did it with actually I think 2 local lenders, and we made a decision. The deal's not closed yet, but I can tell you that I wired over good faith money today to engage one of these lenders who promises that they can now close the deal in 30 days. So, the term sheet, back to the term sheet and what these lenders send, they're going to, it's interest rate, amortization rate, all the kind of clauses that work for you and work against you. It's a pretty thorough document, but at the same time, it's just an engagement letter. And what really happens next is we need to hire third-party vendors to go out and, for example, do an appraisal, do an environmental, and just a few other things. Those are the really big ones: the environmental and the appraisal, and that's it. I mean, so sometimes in these deals, I'd say the appraisal takes the most time. So especially at the end of the year, I've seen appraisals done in 2.5 weeks, but I've also seen appraisals take over 6 or 7 weeks. So we're always a little worried about that, and we're always conscious of that when we're in contract, because the lender's not going to lend the money until the appraisal comes back. And of course, your contract, you have to close it in a specified period of time. So you might want to work with the seller's broker and the seller and say, hey, look, we're moving forward. Maybe the due diligence from the seller didn't come in on time, so you need some extra time. If you want to take the fault, great. If not, maybe blame it a little on the seller, who sellers are always slow getting over all the information they promise to send you. It's just not easy to compile. I'm selling some properties right now myself, and sometimes people want to see 2 or 3 years of financials on the property. Sometimes they want to see tax returns. Sometimes they want to see receipts. I've had other people wanting to see a 24-month history on water bills, a 3-year history on electricity bills. So if you have some help, great. If you don't have some help, it'd probably be a good time to get some help. All right, moving on to the next question. Oh, I see. There's a question here from Brian. Permits. Here's my advice, Brian, on permits. So you buy a new building, okay? Congratulations. You're an apartment owner. And you're going to have to go through some kind of permitting. Usually when buildings change hands from one to the other, the city wants to be involved, and the city for sure is made aware that the building was sold through the taxing authority. So what happens is some states want you to get a new CO, which stands for Certificate of Occupancy. And during the Certificate of Occupancy CO period, there's going to be numerous inspectors that are going to flock down onto your property and look for specific things that need to be fixed. Sometimes it could be expensive, sometimes it could be painful, and sometimes, the property's in perfect shape. Where we get caught up sometimes is if the laws have changed and something wasn't grandfathered in and you're being told you have to make a change. I've seen people having to perhaps put in sprinkler systems, put in fire extinguishers. So you might want to look into that stuff as well before you buy the property. But so that's a certificate of occupancy, and there is a process to the certificate of occupancy. The process that I'm used to, it kind of starts with a structural permit. So you want to make sure the structure is correct and intact. So you got to pass that, and then you get a permit for that. So you get an inspection, you get the permit. And then I've seen the process go from the structural to maybe habitability. Can someone live in it? Are all the outlets in line, or are the lights hanging? Sometimes they want to test the water and stuff like that. And by the way, there's plumbing permits. So you can imagine how many permits there are, and you have to go through this process. You have to go through this process until it's complete. And when it is, then you'll get your CO, your certificate of occupancy certificate, which is kind of the license to do business. And I can tell you too, when you go through that process, not only do you have that good feeling that everything's safe and everything's up to code and everything's up to standard, and you've done everything you possibly could to create this, this safe environment for the families that are living in your properties. You're also increasing the value of your property, because when you want to sell the property and you have all your permits in line and you have your certificate of occupancy, well, buyers love that. I mean, because there's no surprises. And quite frankly, I've seen in many circumstances where banks won't lend to new buyers if the property doesn't come with their certificate of occupancy. Now, why is that, you might ask? Because they don't want to find out that maybe the city wants you to have sprinkler systems and you didn't know about it, and now you need to go spend $75,000. So COs are really important. All right. Let's see here. Someone asked me quickly if I could just go over my 7 steps, my flipping formula steps that I was at a seminar 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was talking about. And the 7 steps right now off the top of my head was, well, you want to get involved and you've never done this before. Where do you start? And this is what I tell people. Well, you got to locate a deal, right? And sounds easier than it really is, but I would suggest find your area, we call it your farm area. Find the area that maybe you go through every day on the way to work or on the way home from work or on the way to the gym. Maybe it's like a 5-mile by 5-mile radius, and start looking for stuff. You'll be surprised. So another way to start looking for properties would be online. I mean, quite frankly, everyone who owns an apartment building, buying or selling, most of the deals are online. You just have to find them. So you can either go to like LoopNet, or you can go to like auction.com, or you can find your local brokers, and they all have these properties online as well. So, that's just a quick way of telling everyone how they can locate the properties. The second step would be evaluation, and that is definitely a little more intense. So I hope to see everybody on the 25th and the 26th of October here at our office building, and we're going to go through a lengthy session of how do you evaluate a building and what's right for you, and is it worth it or is it not worth it, and at the end of the day, will it cash flow for you? Because it's all about the cash flow. That's one of the reasons why I do it. So locating properties, evaluating properties, funding properties. How are you going to fund them? In the book over here, I got one or two scripts that if you just memorize will make it easier to have a conversation. But just, I remember when things really started changing for me when, sometimes I meet people like, how are you? Most people say, good or okay, and then they leave. Well, I never do that anymore. If someone asks me that question, I'm going right into the sales pitch. I'm doing awesome. How are you? I got to tell you something. I just got back from a 76 unit property. Seller wants to sell at 60 cents on the dollar. This is what we're doing. It just needs a little work. And I think it's going to cash flow $5,000 a month. I think we're going to capture $500,000 in equity, and I think we're going to hold on to this for 12 months. I mean, I'm just ready to go. Everyone needs their stadium pitch. What's yours? Write it down. Work on it. So locating, evaluating, funding. So funding to me is finding the down payment money, which we're going to talk about a lot more, and finding some bankers that are going to help to close deals. Funding, control. I really believe you got to control your deals, and we do that through an LOI. And again, I'm going to be talking more about that on the 25th and the 26th. An LOI is an acronym for letter of intent. The letter of intent, once it's signed by the seller and the buyer, well, that's basically saying, more or less, you won't show this property, Mrs. Seller, to anyone else, and you're going to give me my specified time within these guidelines to get on there and do my due diligence, right? We talked about due diligence. And if we want to proceed into contract, well, then we'll draw up a contract. But I'd hate to see you get involved in a deal to find out that it's not your deal anymore and somebody else's. Well, if you have an executed LOI, legally, that won't happen to you, okay? So that's controlling the deal. So once you control the deal, well, you want to move forward, it's time to close the deal. So you're going to go into contract, and then after you're in contract, it's really time to figure out how are you going to fix this property. So we call it the fixing part, the fixing phase. It's the sixth step. You're going to put some paint on the exterior, you're going to get in there, you're going to do all the floors, you're going to bring in washers and dryers, whatever you want to do. You're going to bring in new fridges, you're going to bring in new ovens, you're going to start raising some rents by $100, $200, whatever the plan is, right? Because at the end of the day, all we're really trying to do is increase the income, decrease the expenses. You're left with your profit, or as we say in this business, the NOI. And the more profit, the more NOI, the more money you're going to make. And I mean, when you do those small changes that I tell you to do, you can make so much money. I know some of you can actually take this information that I'm teaching you and make a lot of money if you implement the way I'm telling you to. So we just talked about fixing the property. What are you going to do after the fixed property? You're either going to hold it and cash flow it and hang out with your family, or you're going to flip it and maybe you need some chunks of cash and use it for a down payment for something else, or take that vacation that you probably deserve, right? So locate, evaluate, fund, control, close, fix, flip. 7-step flip formula or 7-step hold formula. It's up to you. If you hold, maybe you're holding for tremendous wealth. I still have real estate 10, 15 years later, and the mortgage pay down is unbelievable. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So it's kind of cool, right? I think I read, it was Donald Trump or Helmsley, who once said, one thing I love about real estate is I can take a bunch of people and put them in one place and watch them pay down the building, so I end up owning it in 5 or 10 or 15 years. What a wonderful feeling. Well, I want that for you. I believe in it because, gee, it was just so hard for me to settle into life. And when I started buying real estate and I started implementing some of these principles, it just made all the world a difference. Huge difference. So I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. But let me just see if we can get one or two more questions out. I'm sorry, everybody. I know I spent a lot of time answering questions, but they're also valuable. And I got to tell you, these are lessons that either made me a lot of money or lost me a lot of money, but I can share the principle and I can share the results with you because Dave and I do this stuff. We've bought close to 2,000 apartment units. We've sold a few over the last 6 months, and we manage over 6,000. So we're really just like, we're walking books. You know, Dave's not on this. Hello, Dave. But you know, I'm sure Dave has one coming out pretty soon too. All right, so let me see what's left here. Turnovers. Oh boy, I better have a drink for that one. Turnovers is actually what really costs us the most in this business. Turnover to us is when someone's moving out, and it costs us money because, quite frankly, they're going to move out, and you're going to have to repair the apartment. Most likely, you're going to have to paint it. Most likely, you're going to have to clean the flooring or replace the flooring, and most likely, it's going to remain empty a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. It really depends on the cycle when the person moves out and how many vacants you have. So we've coined this phrase, lock the back door. What does lock the back door mean? Lock the back door means don't let them leave. Because quite frankly, I've seen vacancies cost $1,000 to $3,000 on average, depending on the rental. So we want to make the tenant happy. We don't want them to leave. So I think it's really important that you work with your tenants, you talk to your tenants, you see, ask them, you know, what's the problem? Maybe someone's unhappy about their carpet. Well, you might actually replace that carpet for them instead of having an empty unit. Or maybe all you gotta do is spend $50 and have the carpet cleaned. Half our properties have carpet cleaning equipment on them. Other tenants just want to, you know, maybe move on, but maybe you can entice them to stay. Maybe you kind of dangle a new refrigerator in front of them or a new stove in front of them. Or one thing that works really well for us is we paint borders on one wall, maybe in the living room area, so it's got a fresh coat of paint, maybe like a maroon color, and they feel like they're kind of in a new place. So what does that really cost at the end of the day to paint one wall? $50, including someone's time, so you don't have to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on a vacant unit. And of course, you want to keep all your numbers high, right? You want to keep your physical occupancy high as well. It just looks better on paper, especially for your bankers. So keep your tenants happy, lock the back doors, keep the turnover low. The turnover by far is our greatest expense. And sometimes you can't do anything about turnover, but what we hate is turnover that happens because it's our fault because of customer service. Look, we are in the service business, and sometimes we forget that. But I believe, for example, we try to keep with the 24-hour maintenance policy on most of our properties. Someone comes in, they have a problem, 24 hours, one way or another, we're going to go over there and fix it. And I get it. If we're not there for 48 hours or 72 hours, somebody might get a little upset. So take care of your maintenance tickets. And we track our maintenance tickets electronically so we can all kind of oversee it. I'm not at every property all the time, but I can definitely turn my computer on in the morning, no matter where I am, maybe Japan, Tanzania, Okinawa, Hawaii. But you know what? I can just get in there right away. I can see how the team is doing. I mean, obviously, if I got 15 maintenance tickets that are 48 hours overdue at one particular property, I'm in Hawaii, well, all I got to do is get on the phone and have a few words with the regional, the manager, and the property manager, one of them, and we'll figure out what the property is and get it done. So turnover, keep it low. Thank you, Jonathan. Let's see here. I think I have time for maybe one more question. Banners have rules. I owned a building and the city asked me to take it down. Okay, I get it. I have apartment complexes in some of these kind of cities. The question really is, I owned an apartment complex and I put up some of those big banners for rent or grand opening or move-in special, and the city asked me to take it down. Here's what I found. There are some cities that have very strict code on what you can hang. The idea is they don't want all this stuff, all this I don't know, colorful notices, or we'll say this junk hanging all over their buildings and kind of defacing the community. So you can go down to your city hall and you can get a sign permit. It's that simple. And some towns will allow you to have a sign permit 6 weeks out of the year. Others will have 4 weeks. Others will have 2 weeks. And that's it. You just have to abide by it. It's not very expensive. Getting a ticket might be very expensive, so don't go that route. Just get the sign permit. And believe it or not, 6 weeks, so 42 days out of the year, and you just have to keep a log on what day you put up a sign. We've been known to go over our limit a few times, and quite frankly, I haven't had too many problems. If the sign permit police come in, well, then I guess we just take it down, or we fumble around looking for the permit. So that's really it on sign permits. I want to thank everybody for sending in the questions. Please keep them coming. I apologize to everyone else. I can see a bunch of names here that I haven't gotten to, but come on down to the event. I love to talk shop. Like I say all the time, if you're serious, we're serious. We already bought the building. We got a great investment community that's growing in this building, and we want you to be part of it. Our online presence is huge. I was just on YouTube with our producer, and he was showing me all the hits we've been getting. So if you really want to learn about apartment buildings and commercial real estate, and even single-family houses, because not only do I own 100, we manage over 500, and we're getting ready to buy 80 more next month. So we have this huge online presence, and just watch the videos, get involved. Register for the events that are coming up. I truly believe we are the most active real estate group that I've seen within the United States, and we're just ramping up here. So if you ever wanted to get in on kind of like the beginning, the founding members, get in with us. Well, I want to see you at the building on the 23rd here for the meet and greet, for the beer, the wine, the cheese. I hope you're coming down for more than just the food. I hope you're coming down to talk shop. I hope you bring your deals. I know last time we had a bunch of deals out on the table. I saw plenty of people trying to buy and sell deals from each other. If you want to meet some property managers, if you want to meet some real estate brokers, if you want to meet some bankers, insurance agents, just come on down. It's all here. And again, we have our 2-day event coming up, so if you want to go register, it's coming. We've been talking about this for a few months right now. Work with daveandallen.com/RSVP and get involved. It's just an incredible time to start learning about this stuff and take responsibility, and just kind of taking more responsibility for yourself and your family, and maybe perhaps less reliant on what's happening in the economy and what's happening in China and what disease and who's waging war. Whatever it is, it's time you work on yourself. You're responsible for yourself. You are responsible for your family. It's time that you get that time freedom that we all wish we had more of, so you can better take care of your health, better take care of your family. If it's I know I like to spend a lot of time with my kid and help him with his work, and I like to exercise in the morning. I like to exercise at night. And a lot of it just comes from a lot of the stuff in this book that I wrote. And I want you to have it, and everyone's going to get a free copy of this that comes to the event on the 25th and the 26th. So go register for the event. Keep up with the webinars, okay? It's this conversation. We have a choice in life. You can be up in the stands, and you can be having conversations with everyone in the stands about what's happening on the court. Or you could be on the court doing it, brushing shoulders with people that have multi-million-dollar portfolios, people that buy and sell apartment complexes. We have this adage around here in the office. We teach what we do right now, not what we used to do. Things are changing quick. I can tell you that I'm not going to get up here and tell everyone to start looking for foreclosures or receivership deals. They're really hard to come by. But I am going to tell you, maybe you go buy a stabilized deal, and you're going to throw in a little value add deal, and we can talk about how you're going to do that. Maybe spend $1,000 or $2,000 on fans and upgrades and brushed nickel products, and how you can bump rents from $1.50 a square foot to maybe $2 a square foot. Proven case studies. So if you want to get near people that are doing it, come on down. I'll see everyone at our next event, and I love it. Keep the questions coming. Keep the motivation. Stay strong. Buy real estate. It can change your life. You're one deal away.